Illegal migrants in Times Square. Oh, I'm sorry, asylum seekers seen beating two police officers. One source telling Fox they were in custody for 3 hours before being released back onto the streets again without bail. All of them young men ages 19 to 24. One of them has also been accused of punching and biting a worker at Nordstrom Rack who caught this illegal shoplifting.
This isn't an isolated incident anyway.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to Real Talk with Darius. Remember to hit that subscribe button, like, comment, and share this video. Now, when we're watching this, a deterioration of what's going on in this country, there's been a great dangerous precedent that's been set over the past 3-4 years under the current administration. We just call it what it is. And the reason we are seeing these type of incidents occurring in our country in broad daylight, stuff like this has been happening, I believe, for a long time in one way or another. But in terms of it happening in broad daylight like it is, it's because of the defund the police movement. Police have been demonized, and this is what happens when you demonize a certain person or a certain culture. This is what happens. This is how racism happens. This is how a lot of incidents, unfortunate incidents, occurs in any neighborhood, any community, in any nation. So this is horrible. Now, you may not think some people may not think it matters. Some people may think that the cops deserve this type of treatment. But when you kind of use a brush to wipe across and wipe a broad mark, if you will, a broad brush over the situation, you put everybody in the same bowl, so to speak. What happens? This type of stuff happens. This is ridiculous.
Look at it or spin it. Just last week, a border agent left bloodied after smugglers assaulted him at the border with rocks.
Back in the cities, reports of theft and sex work. These are criminals who are coming into this country. Pickpocketers, the latest thorn in the NYPD side. One officer telling the New York Post, quote, "Now we have to deal with people who arrive here with no means of support, no legal means of working or opportunity. So I don't see how this should come as a surprise to anyone."
Chicago, Boston, Denver, all overwhelmed by the influx of migrants, pushing the cities to the brink and shifting some of the burdens to the suburbs. Which brings us to our next story.
Denver Public Schools falling nearly $18 million short in funding for students as it sees more and more migrants enroll each week. The local hospital system not getting paid for $136 million worth of services, a large portion of that coming from, you guessed it, illegal migrants.
And soon the sanctuary city may be anything but a sanctuary.
Our city is very close to its breaking point now. We don't want to cut core city services, but right now we're in this dilemma where we can't get any help from the federal government on work authorization or on controlling entry or on the ability to actually provide resources to cities.
Let's bring it in.
You do know that we continue to send a lot of money overseas, right? I mean, if our local cities, but if our cities cannot receive any funds from our government, whom we're supposed to be dependent on with all the taxpayer dollars they take in every single year, plus, you would think that these local cities should be able to take care of themselves, right? Because you're getting taxed in many states, you're getting taxed in your particular state, and on top of that, the federal government takes money from its citizens, so to get certain government business done. But the question is where do those funds go? And that's been one of the biggest dilemmas. I think that's been one of the most under-investigated, if this is a word, incurious things that's going on in this country, the U.S. of A., is that we don't know where and don't question, the majority of us do not question where all of these monies are going. For example, when they come out with a bill, what does that mean? Well, the word bill, in my estimation, it means simply that we're about to start the taxpayers are about to spend even more money that we do not have, and then our children, our grandchildren, our great-grandchildren are all being siphoned off of. Actually, everybody's being born into debt, even now as we speak. So we should be asking questions. And then on top of it, real quick, is what are those cities doing with those funds as well? It's not just at a national level. There are financial issues, financial irresponsibilities taking place. I believe it's also happening at a local level. So now you say, okay, well, do you have evidence to prove it? Well, that's what we as citizens should do. Is we should really demand that our governments be transparent and be honest with us. I don't know why we don't really seem to, and it's just me thinking here. This is me speaking as a citizen of this country and the state that I'm living in as well. Is why are we not as curious and hold the feet of our politicians to the fire as we should? I mean, a lot of them are banking off of us being ignorant and not paying attention. And so we're so busy with our lives that we don't take the time to really question these things. These are disturbing occurrences. And then on top of that, you add more mouths to feed, more bodies to clothe, more places, residences that are going to be needed to house people largely who are coming here illegally. So these are really causes of concern that we must to have. I don't advocate again fear and panicking. I'm just saying we need to be aware and demand our leaders be held responsible and accountable.
Radio host Ross Kaminsky. Ross, good to see you. Thanks for being with us. Just give us your reaction to what you're seeing in Denver with this illegal migration.
It's really out of control. I don't say it as hyperbole. Denver, it's funny, they never called themselves a sanctuary city, but they implemented every sanctuary city policy. And you know who knew it? The illegal aliens knew it. And Governor Abbott of Texas knew it. Like, well, just because you're not calling yourself a sanctuary city, you're still doing all of that. So why don't you have some of them? And, we think of ourselves here as, I used to live in Chicago and New York. I know what big cities are like. Denver's a small city. We don't think of ourselves really in that ball game. And here we are getting, on a percentage basis, more illegal aliens than the other cities. And you showed some of those numbers. I think one other that's worth mentioning, the city of Denver itself is talking about having to spend 10 to 15% of its full city budget next year on services for illegal immigrants.
That's atrocious, Ross. It's atrocious for any town or city in this country. But is anything going to change in the way people vote?
Right.
In the policies that enabled this to happen? Because, by the way, we saw these police officers getting beat up. A lot of the people they're letting across the border are criminals from Venezuela, Colombia. 3 of them pickpocketing in the West Village here in New York City over the weekend. Will anything change in terms of the way people vote in Denver?
And that is always going to be the question: is what decisions are we again as the citizenry going to make? If you keep putting the same types of people in power, the people who grease their hands, they shake your hand, one hand behind the back, knife in it, smile in your face, pet your child on the head, and stab you in the back. Some of them, okay? I'm not going to say each and every one. But many of these politicians have devious purposes, or when they get into office, they become, unfortunately, corrupt. And so the question is why are the people still putting back in power the same type of people while at the same time complaining about the results or the lack of results, the lack of desired results of these people that are being put in power? It's more of a rinse and repeat cycle that we're going through.
It's a great question. I mean, we've seen some change in voting even in places like San Francisco, which is even crazier than Denver. So I can't say no for sure, but I also won't say that I'm optimistic. And I think part of the problem is that Mayor Mike Johnston, who I really like, he's a smart guy, he's well-intended, but the left seems to keep coming with more magnets. And when we're supposed to have a safety net in this country, but when you turn it into a hammock for people just to come lounge around in, right, it turns it really into an attractive thing. And you start putting in these things, hey, we're going to give you free housing and free this and free that, and we're setting up a nonprofit. There's a newcomers fund. It's privately funded, but the city is encouraging people to donate to it. And we're just doing these things. We're saying, you're welcome here. And I don't want to be mean. I'm not racist. I'm not hateful, but you're just not doing anything to change the incentives. So I don't see what's going to change.
Right.
Now, Ross, real quick, I know that there's so many people coming that there's tents and people in shelters, and so the city wants to move them out more quickly, and they want Joe Biden to give them work permits. But if you give 30,000 new people work permits, you very well are going to move them out of tents, but you're going to put lower income folks who live in Denver in tents because they're going to lose their jobs.
Right.
This doesn't make any sense to me, looking out for migrants, but not for the people that actually are Americans and live in your city.
See, that's one of the things I was wanting to bring out too. Is that's exactly what's happening. Is that our government is looking out. Our national government is looking out. Local governments too, as you can see in Denver, but also in New York and Chicago and in Boston and other cities like that. Have you noticed how the narrative shifts when there's a white on black type of situation? Typically, the white person's gonna be demonized, real or imagined. Okay. If a cop's involved with a black person, real or imagined, that's going to become a huge narrative, right? Now these migrants come in, all of us are affected. You hear nothing about race, but there's still a division there, and it's between those who are legal citizens and those who are illegal migrants. And our governments on several levels are focusing on caring more for these illegals than they are for the legal citizens. That should tell you something. I'm seeing people get upset about this issue more than they've gotten upset about the murders and the gang violence going on in their own neighborhoods. They're more upset because these unknown factors have come in to shake things up a little bit due to the welcome mat our government has laid out. That is not right in that case on both sides. But regardless, right at this moment, the main focus is this: our governments are showing more deference to those who have not made a commitment or yet made a commitment to this country by becoming legalized citizens. That should tell you something. Or let me say it this way: the conspiracy theories, many of them are true.
Well, this is straight to that incentive thing I was just talking about, Sean. I mean, if you say, all right, we're going to hire all of you. And in fact, the mayor is already, even without work permits, he's encouraging people to hire the illegal aliens. And I suppose as long as they're here, it's better that they're working than just, I mean, I don't know if you've seen this in the news. We have a whole new thing of squeegee guys in the streets in Denver because they don't have any other jobs and they're hanging out in the parking lots of Home Depot. And just to be clear, I'm not mad at the illegal aliens. They want a better life. I'm mad at the federal government that has invited them in, encouraged them to come, and is not doing anything to help us.
Ross, I don't like squeegee guys. I'm just going to tell you that right up front. They scratch your windows and prostitute you for cash. Ross Kaminsky.
I'm surprised you drive your own car, Sean.
Right.
That was from downtown Ross. Thank you.
You can see what this country is going through. Let me know what you think in the comments. Do you think it is fair? And I know sounds like it's a rhetorical question, but it's not. Do you think it is fair for your government to treat illegal immigrants better than they treat the legal citizens of this country? Remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe, and also hit that notification button. Thank you for joining me. I'll see you next time.